Can you briefly introduce yourself and share your background to us? Your background in tabletop role-playing games?
Yeah. Hi, I'm Christopher Hackler, and my background goes back into the '80s and the Satanic Panic and all that as a kid, and getting into games and playing them, and then going on to a normal life, as people do for a long time, and then got into like the professional kind of part, blogging for N World, um, uh, covering Dungeons and Dragons for them, then working on a bit of the fifth edition of Dungeons and Dragons at the launch, and a few other things like here and there before uh, starting to do some stuff from Hero games by mostly uh, seeing what had never been done. So, and then pursuing that with Jason Walters and Hero Games.
Okay, gotcha. What inspired you to do Victorian Hero?
Um, my personal, I really dig horror. I always have. When I was a kid, I had a comic book that was The Fall of the House of Usher. I was probably like 10 years old, and I read it and read it till like the cover fell off, and then got into that. Uh, in school, as I went through school, I was big into like drama and started reading a lot of Oscar Wilde and things from the period. I've always loved it. Reading Dracula was the first book that I had like read to my son when he was a kid. It was a children's version. Nice, don't worry, people. I'm not I'm not a maniac. So yeah, I've always just liked the gothic horror stuff and the detective stuff, and getting to mix them together and have some fun with like a little bit of history and a little bit of literature, and how those would go when they mashed them up. Plus, uh, Hero, it didn't have a whole lot of stuff just at the like aimed at the normals. And it's a universal system, so
Right. Yeah, the only thing close, I mean, they had Pulp Hero, which doesn't delve much into the Victorian stuff, so it only makes sense. So, how does Victorian Hero stand out from other TTRPGs of the Victorian era?
I think that the flexibility of the system and like the design is a lot different than it, let's say Cthulhu, which would be a really popular one, is a really great. Like everybody loves Cthulhu. No one could say it, like a bad word about that. That has always been fun, but the system lacks the flexibility in character design, um, and the most attractive part of that is I think the madness. The people who dig horror, like there's the survival horror, and then there's the, well, on a long enough timeline you will not survive this kind of horror, and I, pulling that in. I think that personally, I always think that the big draw to the hero system in Victorian Hero is you don't have to learn a new thing to play it. If you can already play the hero system, you can like play Victorian Hero.
Right, yeah,
No need to go and like rewrite the wheel.
exactly. You don't have to redesign new rules or anything like that, just specifically for this. Um, Other than the book you mentioned, what other research did you have to undertake when you started Victorian Hero?
Oh, the first thing was a deep look into the British Library, and a lot of time spent there. And they've kept a lot of records. And my wife, she likes to joke a lot that I was doing things like reading PTA meetings from like the late 19th century and their minutes, and really getting a feel for what it was like to live in these conditions and these streets of London during this period. Obviously, like starting at like lots of Dickens to get that feel, and they're newspapers and magazines from the period where I think where I put like a lot of the literature was just like that's easy. You go read your books, open them up, design a character page by page every time. I like let's if I was doing let's say working on the Invisible Man, I went through the story page by page, and every time a skill was used, I would like write that down, write that down. I tried to have the characters included in the book reflect what they did in the novel, no more and no less. I didn't try to build them past that into like some sort of challenge that I created. We
Right.
can leave that to the game masters in their games.
I gotcha. What would you say are the core game mechanics for Victorian Hero?
Oh, I think that the biggest one would be uh changing a bit of like how we look for survival if you're coming at playing in the heroic levels for having your character survive. Bullets are deadly, that sort of thing. A lot of the challenges are to be like um, challenged as a group and not individual. Like a lot of stuff will like overwhelm you, and there is the whole mindset that doesn't exist in a lot of role playing games historically. Of sometimes you might have to run.
Right.
You can't
Exactly.
challenge this right now. You got to gather information and use those skills. And I tried to really build up the part that have to deal with like early forensics and stuff like that, so we could get into the investigation, so you can figure out how to beat the monster, how to beat the challenge, how to solve the mystery, uh, how to catch the bad guy um, without constant deadly threat of every second. Yeah,
All
I
right.
think that was like a bigger challenge.
Gotcha. Are there any unique gameplay mechanics that players should be excited about?
Well, I'm really excited about the madness stuff personally. I like a little bit of like that you can go crazy, and then we can use the alienist to put you back together uh, bit by bit, and leaving it so that the game master can fiddle with it a little bit to see like what works best for them, how much they want to use it. If you don't have to use it at all, that's fine too. You could just leave it right out and not a problem. But if you want to have the PCs, uh, you know, have it build up on them a little bit after a while. Getting into the madness mechanics, I think, is fun, and I think the gadget stuff and the psychic stuff, like all that's really fun too, because on a normals game you don't really think about that kind of stuff.
Right. Exactly. Um, what would you say are the options and templates that characters should be excited that is in this book that are not in other hero products?
Or the templates for me, I think that the faithful like those sort of like a cleric kind of exists, but there's a bit of a change because we're kind of encompassing anything from like a witch doctor could fall under that just as easily as a Roman Catholic priest. And they still have the same abilities when it comes to like holding back those forces of the undead. So that was really exciting in like the playtest to do, because we had to change a little bit of that for the mechanics that you were speaking of. Like they have the same power like you would have a cleric to like hold back the undead. They're the faithful are a bit better at doing it, because if that vampire gets loose, there isn't a wizard, there isn't a fighter standing next to you. There's a guy in a tweed jacket with a cane.
Exactly.
And so if you're going to go and delve into it, you've got to be able to work. The inventor, obviously, like I think that there's just a lot of fun that people can have there. And a lot of the criminal stuff people have enjoyed, like the apportation, the essentially like picking a pocket by like when you're walking by. That has been a lot of fun, and gets used all over the place. And now I see people like wanting to port that into other games I run. And they're like, I want to be able, like, can I have a rogue do that? You know? Yeah.
Yeah, the one thing got me was the number of new talents that was in this book uh, that well, I thought were great, and they work great for this genre, but not just this, but they could work in other hero products just as evenly, just as they are, especially when it comes to a like Dark Champions or other heroic level games. Um, can you briefly describe what types of adventures or campaigns that people could do in Victorian Hero?
Uh, yeah. Obviously, like a detective is easy. That's right there. And the way I suggest for that to people, I don't know. Some people might have an easy time writing a mystery. I do not. I find it very complex. But there are a million TV shows, and you change the setting, and the plot's the same, and you're good to go. So the detective stuff is great. Obviously, lots of horror and the gothic horror, if you like that. Add in the romance. But the other stuff that might get missed, and I've been seeing a lot of talk about it, is the ability to meld it with things like Western Hero and go intercontinental. There's things in the book that are a bit more of the strange science that's appropriate to the time, representing like the island of Dr. Moreau, um, the Nautilus and Captain Nemo. So if you want to take this on, like, some people might, if one man's freedom fighter is another man's terrorist sort of
Right,
game. With that, you want to go do some, like, Lost World. The basis is there. You go get your bestiary and pull some dinosaurs out. You're good to go.
right. Yeah, I was thinking, and it just dawned on me. I think League of Extraordinary Gentlemen would be a good example of that, where you can use this by itself, and you can go to town with literary characters and just uh, play on through. I just thought that would be very good. What were the challenges that you encountered, or the other people that were with you encountered when designing Victorian Hero?
Um, the First off was a little bit of like when you're adjusting yourself to heroic level. A lot of people play a lot of superhero, and defense isn't really as much necessarily in the forethought of that. But the professor will get knocked out by somebody throwing punches at him. An
Right,
average Joe. So uh, figuring all that out. But the biggest challenge was really how to have the academic characters come in and like hold their own in a party environment to where, uh, now, like, I'm gonna use Pathfinder as an example, just so we know. Like, I've no ill will to Pathfinder. I've played piles of it. Rain and Winter,
right,
excellent adventure path. Um, Pathfinder has a million options, but do they? Because everybody is always going to take power attack for a fighter. These certain things. And so it seems like a lot of options. So I didn't want to include options just to have like a stack. Everything I put in the book, I wanted to make sure, like, would I play this? Would somebody else want to play this? Does this have a reason to be like in the book? And is it not just filler so that I have a page count? And that was like the cowboy is a great template. Like you want to be able to, like, fire a gun, but if you want to be able to move about and, like, find some information. Like, reporter has a role, and I know I was actually surprised by yourself. Several other people have like mentioned the reporter, and I've been like, cool. I was glad people like that.
yeah. Um, Especially with detective, when you combine that with detective, you know, It's great. Um, what was the most rewarding thing you found during the playtesting of Victorian Hero?
Oh, that is that's a good question. Uh, I think that kind of going back to like what you said. God, this is gonna sound like, but I realized that like once I started to like really sit down and start putting stuff together, I was like, oh, like all kinds of this can apply to a bunch of other genres in like normals, competent normals, like campaigns, like that was a huge bunch of it, and then I uh, immediately started like pulling stuff out, like and plopping it in other things that I was doing for fun, like bits and pieces of it. So I think that that was like the big reward was I had a conversation online this morning, somebody about it, and I said people buy the books because they said somebody asked how to make something, and someone said uh well you can make anything, like they were asking where something was, you can just make it yourself, and I said yeah, but convenience and this stuff is hard, like some of it can be difficult to figure out, so the reward is like being able to give value in that if you're running like Christopher Taylor's Western Hero, you can use this book and pull stuff out of it and drop it right in there and and use it, or you're doing some pulp, a lot of it like the technology and stuff is like still relevant.
Right. Um, if someone was to start into Hero and start into Victorian Hero off just off the cuff, other than this book, of course, they would have to have this one. What other resources, hero resources, do you think they would need to start out if they haven't played Hero before?
Um, the obviously like the however you want to come at it, and you can come at it from like hero system, like 60, like 1 and 2, those manuals you can like champions complete. Now the other stuff you're going to benefit, like probably the beastry is always something that can like uh come in to play a lot, and I would say you can always the equipment guide, a lot of the relevant stuff it has been pulled into Victorian Hero from the equipment guide. So I think you could like you can get yourself started with like the core rule book, and like I wouldn't like probably like for myself, like I said, like include another one of the like the pieces that like fit at the time so I can expand the world out. So and a
Right.
lot of people have asked about like Japan at this time or China, and I'm like that's not my wheelhouse. So
Yeah, I was thinking myself that even just the basic rule book itself in this is plenty, and you can just expand out from there, like you said. Um, uh, where can people find Victorian Hero and learn more about your works?
um well the first off, like if you're in any of like the hero places on the internet, whether you're like in hero games, like on their forums, or like many of the like the like Facebook stuff, like the fan pages, or the unofficial like hero Discord. I'm always active. I'm always talking. So if you want to like talk to me about something, hit me up on there. Like the people know me. They'll if you have a question, uh, they'll show you how to tag me. Um, Obviously, you if you want to like pick up the book, you can pick it up at uh, herogames.com. It's on Amazon drive through. If you like it, like leave a rating or leave a review. The uh, I will probably be running some games like KublaCon in the Bay Area coming up uh, next month, and I showed a little bit of it at DungeonCon a couple months ago. So I'm around, and Try to be around, but mostly I think like uh uh always go hero games. Like let's keep it in house when we can.
Right. What would you say is the number one question people ask you about Victorian Hero?
Hmm. That is a couple questions. The number one question would be how deadly, how deadly, how deadly. People are always concerned about that. How deadly is it? And it just that's kind of a game master thing. You can sliding like scale that like easily
Right.
enough. The other question that people will like people ask a lot is like, where did I get all the info from? And like I said, like British library card, like the very and the British Museum. You could go online and see everything, and so people like should be using that resource a lot as they're putting their game together.
All right. And any final thoughts or messages to the audience today?
No, let me see. Continue to support like the little guys in their games. There are some monsters that own this market, and like monster companies. I don't mean people. Like let's not go there. Like some monster sized companies that own like almost all this market, and the people do good work, but the people at the smaller print shops do great work, and they really put their heart and soul into
Yeah,
the stuff they.
exactly. Yeah, exactly. I mean, go to your local library too. You'd be amazed on what you can find, and ask a librarian. They'll direct you to right where you need to go and for research and everything. And as far as maps are concerned, there are all kinds of maps in the books, and there's some in here too, in this book too. But if you want, uh, Victorian houses and how they look and all that. There's all kind. It's crazy. I was a little amazed when I did some my own research on this. Okay, that'll be it. And like I said, always give a like and subscribe and check out the Discord as well as the Facebook pages. And always be a hero.